Hey everyone, welcome back to Two Nerds in a Podcast. Today, I'm very excited for today's episode because we are doing part one of our book swap series, I guess we could
Woo
call it.
woo! Yes.
And this is my recommendation today, and I'm very excited about it because I have recommended this book to many a people. And that book is called, I gotta look up the author because I don't actually remember what his name is.
It's called Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. Rekulak. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm so sorry, Jason, if you happen to hear this. I'm very bad at pronunciation. I am a reader by nature, so it just however those words come tumbling out in my head is how I say them. Uh,
Yeah.
like when I was reading Harry Potter, Hermione's name, it's in there a lot. I had no idea how to say Hermione. I just was like, her was all I said, and then I moved on.
Like, yep, her it is.
Yep,
That
her. Yep.
works.
Oh, there she be. Okay. So, Kacie, how did you discover this book?
I actually discovered this book on TikTok. So this I don't even remember because I wasn't like reading at the time or anything. I don't remember how this book came up on my For You page, but it was like if you want to read a book that keeps you awake, wanting to like a page turner, blah blah blah, read Hidden Pictures, and I was like, well, looks pretty interesting. And so I went to Target and I bought it, and I did not I think I read it in a day because it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's a really easy read. Like if you
Mhm.
are not a big reader or it's been a while since you've read something like myself, it's a really easy do it
Yes.
in a day, like your day off, do it in a day and just like
Yeah, no,
blitz
and
through it.
that is the book that got me like on cuz last year, like around this time last year, I got into like a big book kick. I don't know if it's like my springtime thing cuz I've also been on a
Mm,
book kick lately, so maybe it's like
yeah.
my springtime thing, but
Mhm.
like I was on like a really big book kick last year, like, and that book was what like threw me into it. And like I recommended it to my manager. I've recommended it to literally everyone. I'm like, you need to
Yeah.
read this book because it's not like I read a lot of like very not safe for work gore, I guess,
Mhm.
books type of thing.
Mhm.
A lot of like trigger warning content type of books.
Yeah.
But this one's like not, and but it's still like a creepy book, but it's not like too scary or too gross or too weird. Like it's just chef's kiss. I
Oh,
would
yeah.
love to see this into a movie. I wish they would make this into a
Or
movie.
it'd make a really good like short, like a limited series, like a 6
Episode.
episode or even like a
Yeah.
3 episode like Sherlock style kind of, 3 really long episodes of something. Um it was an amazing book. Like it's definitely one of the best books I have ever read,
Mhm.
and I've read a lot of books.
Yeah, you
And
have.
I I
That's
have.
actually pretty big coming from you.
And like I know I've mentioned this in the past few episodes. I'm normally not like a scary, spooky person like Kacie is. I've slowly been like coming into that, especially because my favorite show is Supernatural. So I feel like since I've seen all of that so many times, I'm like prepared for everything else. Because I know how to kill everything now. I know how to defeat all the ghosts and all the demons and all of that. So I'm not as
Well,
like,
and your favorite game is The Last of Us, so it's like
yeah,
you're like you're like I don't like spooky things, but actually all
my
these
favorite
spooky
things
things
are
are my
spooky.
favorite.
I don't like spooky, likes every very intense spooky thing that you could think of. I think it's definitely something that I've acquired a taste for because I remember when I was younger, I would get like nightmares really easily. So I don't know if it's just I've like grown
Mhm.
out of that, so the scary stuff doesn't creep me out as much. I've never
Yeah.
like batted an eye towards like blood or violence or gore or anything like I've always been okay with that, but it's normally the creepy factor. But again, I know how to kill everything now, so it doesn't matter. But it was
Cool.
a
You're good.
very like so when I started, I technically read this over the course of 2 days because I started it. I think I read like the first 3 chapters, and I did not look up the summary of this book. I did not look up anything about this book. All I know
Same.
is that Kacie said it was spooky and that there was creepy drawings in it, which I'm all about the creepy drawings. Like, done. I'm sold. So when I first started reading it, it honestly, I was like, this doesn't really seem Casey's speed. Like, it was a bit of
Mhm.
like a slower start. So you're just
Mhm.
kind of like chugging along. You're getting a lot of Mallory's backstory. We're going to talk spoilers in this episode.
Yes.
So if y'all want
Always.
to,
Always just assume.
yeah, just like when we're talking about something specific, there will be spoilers. But
Yes.
Mallory is she's like 19 or 20 in this, I think. She's on the
Yeah,
young
she's pretty
end.
young.
Um she had a drug addiction, and we learn like the origins of her backstory later, so we'll talk about that later. But what we know when we're first introduced, she's overcome an addiction. She's over a year sober, which hoorah for her. um and she's basically this nannying job that she's trying to get is her first like real step back into the normal world.
Yeah, because she's living in a sober house at the time, right?
Yeah,
And
she's
like
living
that
in
is
like a
like her way to
community.
get, yeah, like
Yeah.
back into society.
Yeah, because it not only is a decently paying job offer, but it comes with a little cottage for her to live in so she can move out and she can be independent and all of that jazz. And so, like, we get that piece of the story first. And she meets the family, who's a husband and wife, Caroline and Ted Maxwell, and their son, Teddy. Normal, I would say rich family. You don't think anything of it. But
Yeah, definitely upper middle class for sure.
yeah, for
Like
sure.
upper
Because
upper middle class.
they've got like a big old house and a pool and a little cottage on the property. And honestly, I don't even remember what the description of Caroline was, but I always think of, the mom from the movie The Parent Trap, the blonde lady.
Yes.
So she actually plays a character named Caroline in a different movie. And so she is all I picture this entire time. And honestly, if she were still alive, she would literally be the perfect person to play Caroline with
Yeah.
everything that happens. But so the
Yeah.
beginning of this book is kind of slow. And I'm like, okay. And then we get to the part where Teddy's first creepy drawing comes up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that, I literally texted Kacie a picture and I'm like, that's terrifying. Like, if a small child handed me a drawing of
Yeah.
me, the small child, and some creepy ghoul coloring at a table, I would be like, nah, I'm gonna go now. Goodbye.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm actually good. I don't need a job. I'm chill.
Yeah, I'm like, you guys will find somebody else who can handle this. I'm out. Um,
Yeah.
but Teddy is probably one of the cutest kids ever. Not a big old pain in
Yeah.
the butt, doesn't really whine, like, and the the parents at first, like, okay, we're gonna back it up a little. So Ted, the husband, irked me at first because he was really mean to Mallory during her interview. And I was like, who does this guy think he is? She's like 19. Give her a break. She's doing good. You can trust her. And because like Caroline was like all in. And like once you get to the end of the book, you understand why. But Ted, his like 180 from being really mean in her interview to being like super duper friendly when she started working for them, I'm like, what is happening? What is
Yeah.
happening? Like,
Yeah.
I just like, and then like throughout the book, because I know like Ted is just kind of like there, but he gets kind of
Mhm.
like touchy feely, but I wasn't
Very
sure.
creepy.
Yeah, and like I kind of took it as like a that's weird, but I didn't
Mhm.
like, I thought, well, maybe that's just me reading into it, because I feel like as women, we tend to read situations where guys are quote unquote being nice, and we're like, maybe that's creepy, but then it's not.
Yeah.
No, it was 100% creepy because he ended up being in love with Mallory, and I was like, oh, like when it all comes out at the end, I'm like, oh no, because he's like twice her age. He's
Yeah.
just, oh no,
And she's
Ted.
like she's like an adult, but she's like a young adult where it's like weird to be like dating someone half your age. Like now I feel like I'm at the point where I could date someone like close to half my age maybe.
Yeah,
And it'd be like,
it'd be
okay, that's not
whatever.
like that weird. It's like a little weird, but not like that weird. But like this is like weird.
Yeah, she's not even like 21. Like she's under
No,
21, and like that's just
yeah.
so ugh. And
And
here's
she's
the thing.
basing your kids.
Exactly. It's not like they met at a bar and like didn't know each other or anything. Like she is literally working for him to watch his child during the day. What, his wife is there? Like what? Why? Why? So yeah. I did text cuz like I read this book in one day, and it was like 3 in the morning, and I was like, I have to finish it. So I'm texting Casey. Um
And I'm passed out because my
yeah,
bedtime is 8 o'clock.
she's asleep. I know she will be entertained in the morning, but literally when Ted like goes to protect Mallory, and I was like, "Oh, I misjudged Ted," right? And then I kept reading down the page, and then he that's when we find out that he's in love with Mallory, and I went, "Oh,
Yeah.
never mind. Too soon. I take it back. We don't feel bad for Ted at all." Um
Yeah. The only person we feel bad for in this situation is Teddy.
yeah, and Mallory. Like
Yeah.
they got to get it. They got
Yeah,
to
because
get away from her.
Mallory was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah. Yeah,
I was just
she's
trying to live a normal life, and
yeah,
now some ghost thing
is
is.
haunting us
Oh,
and
yeah.
not leaving Teddy alone, and yeah. So like Mallory is just trying to figure out what the heck is happening with Teddy, cuz she knows she's not like a religious nut, but she is religious in her journey to being sober. She found religion, and that's how she
Mhm.
comforts herself and, overcomes her inner demons and all that. So, like, when a spirit starts haunting the house she's living in, she's like, I don't know about that. But she goes about everything in a very practical way. She tries to let
Mhm.
Teddy like lead and like tell her things. But like the one scene that keeps coming back into my head is when she gets the baby monitor and she sets it up in Teddy's room to like see if she can catch the ghost on camera. And we don't see the ghost, but you see like Teddy having a seizure basically. And I was like, that would freak me out so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Freak me out. But anyway, so she's looking for a ghost because there's like I guess an old wives' tale we can call it. Like a local legend of somebody that used to live in the cottage that Mallory is currently living in, was murdered. They said like
Oh, yeah, I
in
forgot
or
about that plot
yeah,
line.
and so like that's what your main focus is on at first, because you're
Mhm.
like, oh, we got to solve the mystery of, because Teddy keeps drawing these pictures of like a girl getting strangled, and then a girl being, and then a guy dragging the girl by like her
I
legs,
know,
and
dude. It's all like it's like
and it's
children's pictures,
yeah,
so
it's
it's
stick
just
figures.
terrifying.
Yeah,
Like that because the drawings, like it's like as you go on, they get more detailed. We'll talk about why,
yeah,
but but the fur, like the stick figure ones were
yeah,
so terrifying. I was like,
so
this is
creepy.
mortifying. Like imagine like
Yeah,
any scary movie where the kids just drawing like crazy shit. Like that's exactly what this is.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, like, the pictures are included in the book, so you get to look at them as well, so, like, as
Yeah.
Teddy hands Mallory these pictures, you get to see them alongside her, and you're just like, "Oh my god, that's terrifying." Like, lady getting thrown into a hole while a guy buries her alive, like, there's a lot happening,
Yeah,
and so
it's
you're
crazy.
thinking so, like, the first, like, I would say good half to 3/4 of this book, you're like, we got to solve the mystery of this lady from the 1940s that has been murdered. We got to find out what happened to her, right? Um, and then that turns out to not be like that. This ghost that's haunting Teddy, not at all related to whoever was in the 1940s. Like
Yeah.
the person in the
That was just their
1940s, that was,
cover up.
yeah, that was just like something that just like Caroline lucked out that was like a thing to this house that she moved her family into because it lined up with her. Caroline is the bad guy, by the way. I'm going to put that out there.
Yeah.
She's the bad guy.
She's
This
the
is all
yeah.
her fault. If she wasn't a bad person, none of this would happen. It would have all been fine. But she decided that she wanted a child because it is mentioned in the beginning that her and Ted had a hard time conceiving. So you either assume that Teddy is either one, the miracle child, or two, adopted. Like those were my
Mhm.
two initial thoughts. It turns out he is
It's
kind of
neither.
a it's neither. He was stolen. Teddy was stolen from his mother
Yeah.
in
I want
upstate
to
New
talk about
York.
okay. I want to like pause this for a second. I want to talk
Yes.
about because there's I feel like there's one and I don't know if you felt the same way, but I feel like
Hmm.
there's like one line where it just is like shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Like one page in the book when you find out and I'm going to like kind of spoil it a little before we get to
Yeah.
that part, but when you find out
Spoil
that
all of
Teddy's
it.
a girl,
Literally, I got chills when Mallory goes, "When were you gonna tell me that Teddy was a girl?" And I went,
yeah, dude, I was
"What?"
like, "What?" I literally was like
Oh
and I told my
my
manager
god.
because my manager read it and I was like, "There's
Yeah.
going to be like a line in the book." And I was like, "And you'll know exactly where it is when
Yeah.
you're like, what is going on? I don't
Yeah.
know what is going on anymore."
Yeah.
And it was like
Because
when you find that out, it's like, "Whoa."
yeah, because literally at that point in the book, you are like you're almost to the end of solving the 1940s murder, but you're like
Yeah.
something it's not like, it's not
It's just
buttoning
not
up
fully
in a
adding
nice
up.
little
Yeah.
bow and it's not you're like it's not over yet. What is left? And then she literally is freaking she isn't she is she tied to a chair at that point? Or is she just inside? I
Oh,
think she might
I think
she's
maybe
just
because it
inside the
doesn't
house, right?
Caroline like knock her out when she finds
Yeah.
out because
Yeah.
they're like taking like an outdoor shower or something.
Yeah, because they were in the pool, and then they got Mallory and Teddy were swimming in the pool, because it was supposed to be like, but they were out of the pool, and Teddy was rinsing off, and then oh my gosh, oh because the neighbor lady got murdered, so the
Mhm.
police had come
Oh
over,
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh, uh-huh.
and Teddy had asked Mallory something, but he like opened the door for her. And that's when she realized that Teddy was not Teddy, it was a she, that Teddy was a
Yeah.
girl, not a little boy. Um and Teddy's like 3, I think, so it's not
Mhm.
really at like the I need to change your diaper kind of situation. Like he's already potty trained and ready to go. But yeah, and so that's how she finds it. That's the only reason she knows that Teddy's a girl. And I was just like
Yeah, this whole time.
the the second she said that, like I was literally texting Kacie and I was like, no, 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 because I was literally the second she said that, I was like, Caroline took that baby. She took that baby from
Yeah.
somebody. I don't know when, but she took that baby. And I thought it was gonna be like Caroline like stole like an actual like infant, like little baby from somebody or from somewhere, but she didn't. She literally was her and Ted were living in upstate New York, And she watched this mom and her little girl every like Saturday or Sunday, every weekend, come to the park. The mom would paint, not pay attention to her daughter at all. And Caroline was like, I would pay attention to that baby if it was mine. I would
Yeah,
do
Carolyn
that.
was like, yeah, because she couldn't have a baby, so she was
Yeah.
like, "That's annoying because like I want a baby and you have one and you're not even paying attention to it, so I guess it's my baby
Yeah.
now."
So like,
Because
yeah,
that's
she's
how
just
that
like, that's
works.
mine. Yeah, she's like, you're that's my baby now. I don't know. You don't deserve it. It's mine. And it's like, Caroline, you
You can't
can't
do
take people's kids.
that.
And then on top of taking the child, she also murdered the parent.
I
I'm
know.
like, bruh.
It's like man, you couldn't have done enough. You already did enough damage. Like, come on.
Yeah. And I was just like absolutely appalled, but also fascinated because, like, Caroline as a character, you understand her struggle and that she was just so passionate about having a baby of her own, and she had that kind of
Hmm.
mindset where she was like, this is gonna fix a baby, would fix my life, would fix my marriage. And it's like, well, kids actually aren't miracles in that respect, but okay. But you understand where she fell off the deep end.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're getting towards like the end, and Caroline is, as any good villain, spewing all the details, right? Because she's like, well, Mallory's gonna die because Mallory has to die in
Yeah,
order for
she
everything
knows
to
our
work
secret.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, she knows the secret.
And just the pure genius of Caroline. Like, I didn't understand why she would have been so hyped to have Mallory. I'm like, I mean, I understand she's young. It'd be easy to, blame everything on her. But the fact that Mallory had a drug addiction past
Yeah.
was like the perfect cover up to make her look like she overdosed and
Mhm.
like killed the neighbor lady because she was high and all. And I'm just like, wow, Caroline really, she really had
She
it
really
all worked
thought it
out.
out. Yeah.
Like
She's
every
really a
single,
mastermind,
she
truly.
truly is. And I'm just like, wow. And like the school that she was trying to enroll Teddy in kept like calling. And I'm like, and she made the comment that, gosh, it's this darn school again, and they keep calling. And I'm like, that's kind of weird that a school would call so much. Cause, like, I mean, I know enrolling your kids in a different school system is always a pain, but I'm just like, just that little tidbit, I'm like, that was weird, but okay. But it's
Yeah,
like,
you're like, "What?"
when you come to the end and you know everything, and then you look back on the beginning of this book, you see it all. You can see
Yeah.
the
Yeah, you
whole
can see it all
picture.
unfold as it's going. You're like,
And you're
"That
like,
makes sense."
yeah. And the things that your brain kind of goes, that's weird. You realize it was weird and it was weird for a reason. And you're just like, whoa. Like the writing in this book is phenomenal. And I know we've been really all over the place with describing what happens. Um
Which
I'm
just means you
so
have to read it for
sorry.
yourself,
But you
so
have to read it because there's something about this author and the way he tells this story that is just absolutely mind-blowing. Like,
yeah, and it's like an absolute page turner. Like once you get to like a certain point, you don't want to stop because you want to know what's going to happen. You're like, what
you
is going
have
on
to
now?
know.
There's
You
just
have to
so many
know.
twists and turns, and
Yeah.
that's like the one thing because like I'm listening to a book right now, and I like enjoy it, but and th- and there's a lot of like twists and turns and plots, but like it's not like enough to like keep me wanting to like finish it all in like the same day. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
Like this book, I was like, I cannot sleep until I finish this.
Yeah. Literally, I was like, "Oh, I always make the mistake. I don't know why. I think I know myself better than I this by now." But I was like, "Oh, I'll read before bed." Which means
Yeah,
naturally that
which
I
is
will
the
be up
worst.
until 3 a.m. to finish. Yeah.
Yes.
And so I was like, because like I said, I had read like 3 or 4 chapters and then put it down and then came back a few days later. So I was like, oh, I'll just do that. I'll put it down and then I'll come back later. Except I couldn't put it down because I was having a panic attack the whole time. Because I was like, I need, because I had gotten, again, the beginning, it's not slow in a bad way. It's slow because when crap hits the fan, it hits the fan. Like,
Yeah.
and
It's
so
just
I,
backstory, just getting to know everybody, but, like, it's
yeah,
interesting, but yeah, it compared to, like, the shit that hits the fan,
yeah.
like
And then, like I said, like once we kind of feel like we're solving the mystery of the random lady that was murdered in the 1940s in that cabin, you're like, oh, and we get a little, like, a little side quest story because Mallory kind of gets a little love interest.
Mhm.
And so you go, oh, okay, like things are looking up for Mallory. The ghost situation is getting worse, but at least for Mallory, life is getting a little better. Um, and then you see it all kind of start to fall apart, and you can't look away. Like, you have to know what happens. Every time I'm like, okay, I will finish this chapter and then I'll go to bed. And then I'd finish the chapter and I'm like, okay, I need to read at least the first page of the next chapter. And then that would result in, well, I need to finish this chapter. And then it was just a vicious cycle from then on until it was 4 a.m. and I finished the book and I felt like crying because it's just so good.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. It's like, yeah, it's definitely probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite books that I've read.
Yeah, it's definitely one I will reread. Like, the even though I know the general gist of what happens, it's still that slow build is just like a it's like a roller coaster where you get so excited and you get worked up even though you know exactly what is coming. But oh,
Yeah.
it's so good. It's so good. And I like that it was short. Short, simple, nothing overly complicated. There wasn't a ton of characters to keep track of. There wasn't a ton of plot lines to remember. Like, there's literally, like, I would say, like, two main plot lines and then they come to a head. But
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
it
Yeah, there's definitely
wasn't,
a lot of, like, side ones, but the 2 main ones, they definitely come, like, whatever, what the words are tough.
yeah. Yeah, that's okay. We like to read them. We don't have to say them.
Yeah. That's why we read.
Yeah. And all of the characters, like, they such multifaceted characters. Because, like I said, Caroline in the beginning, I always think of, you know what? I'm gonna look up her name real quick because I don't remember her name. Natasha Richardson. If you Google Natasha Richardson, that is who I picture for Caroline, and she would literally be the perfect actress for it. But like, because when you first meet Caroline, she's very warm and inviting and welcome to my house. And, this is my perfect little child that we've, waited so long for. And she just gives you this real sense of comfort. And coming from the perspective of Mallory, who's been through all of the trauma from which honestly, the texting and driving thing with Mallory, I was not expecting. Like, that's how her sister died. I was just like,
Oh, yeah,
whoa.
because of her.
Yeah, because she was
Yeah.
literally looking at her phone while driving, and I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa. I was not, like,
Yeah,
expecting that to be.
once you find all that out too, it's like it, like, makes m you feel like you understand Mallory a lot more
Yeah,
because 'cause you're like, "Oh, she's not just some junkie." She's like she had a reason for it. I mean, not only did she have injuries that needed medication,
yeah.
pain medication, she had, like, mental trauma she had to deal with.
Yeah, which honestly, that's how a lot of people get hooked on drugs too, is they go in
Yeah.
for a surgery or have an accident and then they they don't take care of the emotional trauma that comes with that, and so the painkillers make everything numb. Not just the actual physical pain, but everything. And so they find comfort in that and then it just quickly spirals. So it was amazing to hear her backstory, and especially because it was her little sister, and
Mhm.
that's just, losing a sibling is tragic in itself, but I imagine losing a younger sibling is like no other. And then to have her mom truly not be able to help her in any way, not know how to help her because they grew up poor. Her mom was always working. She couldn't be there for her daughter. And then they're both trying to deal with this awful tragedy. And then they just kind of like fell out and stopped talking to each other because Mallory's mom literally didn't know what she could do for Mallory. And
Yeah.
honestly, Mallory says it at one point that her mom literally couldn't do anything because her mom couldn't get her the drugs. She couldn't make it better. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
so heartbreaking to hear, to
Yeah, and
read.
that's why it's like it sucks because you're like, damn, Mallory really was trying to change her life, and now all this crazy shit is happening.
Yeah, she's finally like on the up and up. She's sober. She's got herself a little job, a nice little cottage with a very nice family, and a little kid who she can like truly like care for and take after and be there for. And she gets straddled with a ghost and a psychotic mother parent.
Yeah. It's like, my God, like cut the poor like cut Mallory a break, dude. Like she's been through too much.
Yeah.
She's been through too much.
And I felt
And
so
like she
bad
just wants to take
too.
care of Teddy.
Yes, she
And
just wants to
Teddy
take
loved
care of
her.
him. Yes. And I felt so bad because she's her struggle with how to bring it up to Caroline and Ted. She's like, I don't want to sound like a lunatic because they obviously know that she's religious, and they are
Mhm.
very they have like these house rules, and one of them is no religion, superstition, anything like that, only science.
Yeah.
So she's like, if I say that there's a ghost haunting Teddy or haunting this house, I'm going to sound like a lunatic. And then I'm going to lose my job and it's going to, back to
Yeah,
square
they're gonna
one
think
kind
I'm
of
on
thing.
drugs again. Like
Yeah. And she's just like, she wants to be there for Teddy and to keep this little life that she's slowly building for herself. But she's also like, I can't just ignore this creepy ghost that Teddy keeps talking to
right.
for like an hour every day.
Right. Like
Because,
you can't just ignore that.
yeah, yeah. And then, like, Teddy, like we said earlier, like, she, has like little kid drawing at first, stick figures. Are they
Mhm.
creepy? Yes. Because, oh my gosh, what is he called? The ghost?
Oh man, I don't remember. Is it Anya?
Yeah, yeah, I think it is Anya.
Yeah, and that's his imaginary friend.
Yeah, so like when Mallory comes in, like Teddy has like an hour of quiet time every day, and so
Where he just
um
talks to the ghost.
yeah, he's talking to the ghost. Um and he says that her name is Anya and that, they chat and stuff like that. And Mallory, there's a couple of days where she like listens at the door, and it's kind of the first inkling of when stuff starts to get a little weird because, like, I mean, people talk to themselves all the time and have conversations out loud. But the way like Teddy is talking is almost like an adult talking to a child. But like, so
Mhm.
there's long pauses and shorter pauses, and then he's like interrupted occasionally and things like that. And so she doesn't really think anything of it at first because, again, normal to talk to yourself, especially as a child. But it gets the ghost gets more and more aggressive, um
Mhm.
and kind of scares Teddy a little bit and stuff like that. And then she starts taking over, like she like possesses Teddy and like uses him to basically redraw the pictures that he already drew, except now instead of stick figures they're like super
They're like
realistic.
real drawing. Yeah, and doesn't it like isn't there like one point where cuz she like possesses like his opposite writing hand, right?
Yeah, so both Mallory and Teddy are left-handed, but when
Woo!
Teddy is
Lefties.
when Teddy is possessed, he's using his right hand because Mallory notices
Mhm.
like all the pencil and stuff is on his right
Mhm.
hand. And she's
He's
like,
like
that's weird
that's she's like
because
that's weird.
yeah, she's like, that's weird because he's not right-handed. And so like she again, the baby monitor comes in, and she like super smart. I would have I applauded her when she was like, I'm gonna get this baby monitor, I'm gonna set it up in his stuffed animals, and we're gonna see what the frick happens during quiet
Yeah,
time,
what is going
because what
on?
is happening. Because at one point, like, Teddy was like giving her these drawings, but he kept telling her like, don't let mom and dad see, like, these are just for you. And she
Mhm.
was like, oh, okay. And then at one point they started magically appearing in her little cottage, and she's like, uh and so
Ooh.
yeah, and so when the baby monitor is set up and she watches like Teddy get possessed, and I was like, that freaked me out. um but she, I think at one point, I think it was right after that, she had fallen asleep on the couch, and I don't remember why Anya wouldn't possess Teddy, but she possessed Mallory instead. Oh, I think it was right after
Mhm.
they had their seance, because she and the crazy neighbor lady who smokes way too much pot, they had a seance. They had a seance at one point. Um, and like during like the seance, which it was, so I know I watch a lot of like supernatural and things like that. So anytime somebody brings out a Ouija board, I'm like, you better put that thing back in the box and never look at it again. Like, according to
Get that thing
every
out of
witch,
here.
yes, I'm like, no, the Winchesters said, do not mess with a Ouija board. You put that thing away. Don't. Don't ever mess with a Ouija board. But they had a Ouija board, and I remember, I'm just gonna call her the crazy neighbor. I don't remember what her actual name was. But I remember when they were doing their little seance, and Mallory, because we hear all of Mallory's thoughts, so she's freaking out because this thing, the planche, is moving, and she's
Mhm.
like, "Oh my god!" And the crazy neighbor lady's like yelling at her, like, "Why are you moving it?" And I'm like, "I thought you believed in this stuff. Like, why do you think Mallory's moving it? If you believe that this is happening, I think because it was all gibberish. Like, it didn't she didn't write in English of what the ghost was saying. So she was just like, Mallory, you're messing it all up. You're not doing it right. Well, it turns out Anya is Russian, right? I think she's Russian. She spoke another language that wasn't English, which is why they couldn't understand what she was trying to
Mhm.
communicate in their
I think it was
seance.
Russian.
But yeah, so after that, the ghost realizes that like she has to somehow communicate with Mallory pretty much directly. And so she ends up possessing Mallory. Mallory fell asleep on the couch, as one does.
Mhm.
And then she got possessed by Anya. And Anya drew all over the walls of the house, the Maxwell's house. So Caroline wasn't too pleased when she got home.
Yeah,
And
no.
she
She was like,
was
"What is going on?"
furious. Uh,
Yeah.
and Mallory has no idea what's happening. She's like, I was asleep, but like
Yeah.
these, like the dreams and stuff felt very real. But she was like, I was literally asleep. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And again, you get to see all of the pictures that Mallory drew. And again, Mallory's left-handed. She drew it with
Yes.
her right because her right hand was covered in charcoal. And charcoal, out of all things to draw on the walls, I was like, oh man, that's a mess.
Yeah, that's not gonna be fun to clean up.
No. But that's like when shit hits the fan. And you just go, oh, because like Caroline ends up tying Mallory to a chair and calling her crazy and says that she has to leave. And it's just like, oh, no, 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 no. Um, but yeah.
She definitely gaslit the
Oh,
heck out of her.
she gaslit everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody.
everybody. Even
Like,
Teddy. She's like, "You are
yeah.
a boy. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?"
And it's funny because again, when you look back at things at the beginning, like Teddy always wanted to wear the same purple striped t-shirt every day, and I think shorts, but the same outfit every day. So like I feel like when you're reading through it the first time, you're like, "Oh, maybe he's just like a little like ADHD or OCD or something, and it turns out it's because Teddy's a girl and Teddy wanted to wear the most girly thing in his wardrobe. which was
Yeah.
purple. um,
Yeah. It's so crazy. Like once you find that
yeah,
out, man, I'm just like, what is happening? My
man,
head was spinning by
this
the end of the book. I was like, this is that was good. I was like, and then I was like, this everybody needs to know about this book because holy moly.
it's so good. Like I and even if you've listened to this podcast and you're like, I'm gonna go and read it, we talked about it so not in any kind of train of thought order of any
Hmm.
kind,
Yeah.
that it will all be a surprise to you. And there's so much detail, but again, it's not confusing. So it's a really nice read. Um, Even if you're not like super observant in reading,
Hmm.
like if you miss a little detail here and there, it just makes it that much more surprising when you get to the end. And I'm telling you, like the last, I think it's 10 chapters of this book, you're
Yeah.
not going to be, you're just going to literally race through it because
Yeah, pretty much.
I was so anxious the whole time. And I'm just like, I have to know what happens because I will not be able to sleep. I have to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, honestly, that's how I'm pretty sure like I read like that was when I was like doing all my reading. So I was like reading I'm pretty sure I was reading it late at night and I was like, I just can't. I can't go to sleep. Like that feels illegal.
Yeah. Like you
Like I need to
just
know.
be prepared to read it all day. Like
Yeah.
don't read it on your lunch, don't read it before you
Yeah.
go to bed.
Yeah.
Literally read it on your day off so you have time to read it. But it would make a very good limited series, or if they
Ugh.
did it right, a very good movie. It just has like it's one of those stories that it has a lot of detail when you're reading, so as a reader you're very
Mhm.
satisfied. But if they were to kind of trim things here and there, it wouldn't deter from the story, so it'd still make a very good movie. um
Mhm.
but man, it's such a rush. Like now I understand why Casey has anxiety all the time, because if she reads stuff like this all the time, I would also be on edge all of the time.
Oh man, and some of the stuff I read is like intense. Like whew, that's like on the that is like
On
a
the light
really really
side.
good read. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
definitely on the like lighter side of like some of the shit I read. I'm not even
Yeah.
going to like it you can look on my Instagram. I have a highlights on books I've read. You can just see there the type of shit I read.
Yeah. But literally, like once we got to like the halfway point of the book, I was like, oh, okay, I see why like Casey likes this. Cause like ghost
Yeah.
story, and then like that last 10 chapters, man, I was like, no wonder Casey likes this book. Like now
Yeah.
I fully see it, and now I'm full of anxiety.
You're like I get it. I
But
get it.
yeah. And I was just like I was seriously on the verge of tears like those last few chapters, cuz I'm just like what is happening? I'm like reading so fast that my brain is just like what is happening?
Yeah,
Is
you're
it
like just
really
trying to like
happening this
consume it
way?
all.
Yeah, and like you've got Caroline framing Mallory as a drug addict and murdering her, and then it turns out that Ted was like, I couldn't let her murder you, so I switched it with baby powder so that you would live and we could run off together. And Mallory's like, You mean you, me, and Teddy, right? And he's like, Nah, leave Teddy.
It's like forget Teddy.
Caroline, yeah, only wants Teddy. She won't come after us. And I was like, You insane mofo.
Right. It's
How
like thanks
dare
but no thanks.
how dare you want to leave that child? Honestly, I
Yeah.
was
With
very
that
thank
crazy
uh
lady? Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I was actually very thankful that I at first I thought Mallory was gonna take Teddy and try to run. And I'm like,
Mhm.
Mallory, you will die. You will
Yeah.
die if you try to do that. Please don't do. And that she didn't. And I mean, she kind of did, but she wasn't going to run like away to a different state like Caroline did with Teddy in the first place. She was just running to the police. She was just running
Yeah.
long enough so that Caroline would die, which she
Yeah.
did. It was very
Yeah.
satisfying.
Yes, thank
Anya,
God.
who is Anya, the ghost, ended up being Teddy's dead mother.
Yes.
And she was literally crying for help to make sure that Teddy didn't end up in a similar situation, and that was brought back to his father, who is still alive. So
Yeah,
Teddy
she
did
was,
get,
like, basically trying to be like, "Hey," like, she
yeah,
was possessing Teddy to be like, "Yo, I
yeah,
need you to listen to me, and I
yeah.
gotta communicate this somehow."
Yeah, I need somebody to listen to what I'm saying to save my
Yeah.
child. So she was truly just trying to look out for her kid in the afterlife. And she did get her revenge by possessing she possessed Mallory or Teddy at the end. I thought she
I don't
possessed
remember.
Teddy. Might have been Mallory. I don't know. She possessed one of them and got her ultimate revenge on Caroline. So Caroline was dead by the
Yeah.
end, which was honestly, I have never been so happy to read somebody murdering somebody else than for
Yeah.
Caroline to be murdered. Because
Yeah.
the
Sh
second I realized that she took Teddy, I wanted her dead. She needed to be dead.
Yeah, like, she's crazy, and then, like, just to be like, "Oh, yeah, no, no, no. No, you're a boy where you're gonna everything that you've learned, just forget that. You're
Wrong.
starting over."
Yeah.
Yeah, wrong.
Yeah, she basically
I'm your mom now.
brainwashed. Yeah, she brainwashed this child to be hers. And I'm like, that's literally insane. Like, there's no other word for it except absolute insanity.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
and like the ultimate chameleon, man, because she was just like all like happy and waves hi to her neighbors every day and it's like, yeah, we'll take on this like troubled teen and we'll give her a chance, to get her life together and she can live independently, and then lies. She's just using her to
Lies.
frame her.
Ugh,
Oh my gosh.
awful. Yeah,
Oh.
I feel like that would be, like, the best word to, like, describe this book is, like, insanity.
Mhm.
'Cause
At its
it's just,
finest.
like, there's just yeah.
It's just there's so much. It's weird because this book, there's so much happening, but it's so, I don't want, simple is not the word I want to use, but that's the only one that's coming to mind
Mhm.
because like
I get what
I've
you're
read,
saying.
yeah, I've read books where they're like overly complicated and everything's very cloudy and you're like,
Mhm.
"Wait, was this a reference to that and does this mean this or did it mean that?" This book, like, it's a bit hazy when you're reading it, but then when you get to that final twisting moment, everything is crystal clear. And you're just like,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
see it all. I see everything. I understand the universe for this moment in time.
I understand that Caroline sucks.
Yeah. I understand Caroline needs to die. Ted needs to go find somebody else to be in love with.
Yeah,
And that
not
poor,
Mallory, please.
yeah, anybody but Mallory. And I felt so bad because Mallory's trying to like get her life together and
Yeah.
be a participant in normal society, and then she's just got this dude like hitting on her all the time and touchy feely, and I'm like, oh, bruh, this is Ted. This is not the time nor the place
Yeah.
to do that.
Please stop.
Oh my gosh. But the Mallory's little boyfriend, is his name Adrian?
That
It's
sounds
something with
about
an
right.
A. Yes, Adrian. Ha! I remember. Um, I thought their little like love connection was cute. It wasn't a full on romance, which was good because I feel like Mallory didn't really need a full on romance, and she knew that about
Yeah, it was kinda
herself
like a
too.
summer
Uh,
fling type of thing.
yeah, it was just like a cute little flirty exchange and like, oh, I like you and I like you. Of course it didn't help that she lied to Adrian about like being in college and being an athlete, which
Yeah.
she was before, she got in her accident and became a drug abuser, but yeah, that kind of backfired on her, and I'm kind of glad it backfired on her. This book is it feels very realistic. Like, it feels
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
something that could happen to somebody and, like, you would believe every single word of it, which makes it that tiny when they add that, like, supernatural element in there, it makes it all the more creepy
Yeah.
because you're like, this is so realistic, but also so creepy at the same time. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, very
but
creepy.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I totally recommend if you've listened to this whole pod mess of a podcast. And and we haven't convinced you to read it yet. Please go and read it. It's not very long. It's under 400 pages, I believe.
Mhm.
Um, it's so good. If I understand there's probably maybe not any of our audience in particular, but I know there's a lot of people out there who don't like spooky or the supernatural. I am here to tell you, as somebody who didn't used to like any of that, it's not overly spooky. It's just
Mhm.
enough to like,
It's just enough to keep you wanting go, like, keep you going, honestly.
yeah, it gives you some goosebumps. It'll give you a chill down your spine, but the story and the characters are so intriguing that you have to continue and you have to finish it. Like, it's just so good. It's super easy to read. Again, nothing overly complicated. Um, Definitely an amazing recommendation. So thank you, Kacie, for that
You're
recommendation.
welcome. You're
I'm very
welcome. I'm glad
excited
you liked
for
it.
yes, I'm very excited for future book swaps. Because I feel like this is how Kacie and I kind of work as friends is we tend to be into or fans of very opposite things, and then we go, here, watch this or read this or do this, and then we do, and then we kind of slowly like gel together and become like super best friends.
Mhm.
So I'm excited for future book swaps to just kind of, and for hopefully future recommendations from you guys, because
Yes,
we would love
absolutely.
to continue reading, especially things that are outside of either of our elements, or that if you have anything that's a mixture of both the things that Kacie and I like, because it'd be interesting. I know I said this in the last episode, but it'd be really interesting to be in love with a book series.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think that's it for this
I
episode.
think
You got
that
anything else?
I think that it's I all I wanna say, 10 out of 10 book,
Yes.
go read it, stop what you're doing, well, listen to the rest of this because there's not much left,
Yeah.
and then go get it.
Yeah. Go get it. You can find it pretty much everywhere. Amazon,
Mhm.
Target, Barnes and Nobles. I actually had the ebook version of it. But I might have to go and buy a physical
Oh, nice.
copy because it's just that good that
Yeah, the physical one is yeah,
yes.
chef's
Yes,
kiss.
so good. So don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on, and follow us on all the social medias so we can keep you guys up to date. You guys can contribute to future episodes or give suggestions, and we will see you guys in the next episode. So goodbye.
Bye.